So let's give you a sneak preview then of what we can expect from President Cyril Ramaphosa later on this evening. And we are joined by eNCA political editor Vuyo Mvoko to unpack it all. Of course, in true Ramaphosa style, Vuyo, there was a fair amount of consultation with the various players in the economy. NEDLEC was consulted, but there was also a cabinet meeting, the National Coronavirus Command Council. Much talk, though, is about the economic growth and turnaround strategy. What can we expect on that front?
Well, I mean, if you had half a dozen officials of the ANC going to Harare and breaking every rule there is in the book, including using state resources for party political reasons, then that should have given you every indication that the economy is indeed open. We are now, doing our way with disaster management. But on a more serious note, you're right. Tulas, there was that meeting yesterday, NEDLEC, where there was a lot of conversations around reopening the economy, and all shoulders to the wheel. You cannot then say that there are areas of the economy that should still be strangled, even though the fear of a resurgence of the virus is still there. But for all intents and purposes, the economy is open now. Now, the little parts that remain closed need to be reopened, because we can't go to the markets to borrow more money because we still harbor the fear that there may just be a resurgence, or we haven't done nearly enough to be able to contain the pandemic. We are at a position now, as experts led by Professor Abdul Karim have said, that we can, with a great deal of certainty, cautiously still, of course, but we can virtually open the economy, because that has to be our priority now.
So you craftily make reference to the incident involving what the DA is calling Jetgate, this lift that Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula decided she was going to give her comrades in the ANC to hop on over to Zimbabwe, despite the lockdown and international travel being banned. To what extent can we expect the president to say any kind of words that could remotely be in allusion to that particular incident and the culture behind that particular incident? And I ask this because previously, whenever he would be addressing issues of corruption, for example, because the address does tend to be multifaceted, but he's shied away from addressing specific incidents. Can we expect that to continue even now while the message is being driven home?
I think he will, in all likelihood, shy away, true to form, true to himself, the kind of person you have just described. And that is also because business in particular has been quite forthcoming, saying, can we please stop talking about or restating things that have been said before? Can we stop focusing on little things that are not in reality advancing, the economic agenda of the country? Remember, by the time COVID hit us over 6 months ago, our economy was in trouble as well. And the reason a business is coming, it has adopted that approach, is because, just like Kosatu has been saying, the president and the government in general has been saying all the right things. The problem is that they do not have a record of walking the talk, and that is what they want to do. Among the things that were tabled at NEDLEC yesterday was what to do with ESCOM, for example. We all know that ESCOM is in trouble, right? And its problems are not going to be resolved tomorrow. So what do we put on the table in the meantime to show, one, to ensure that we keep the lights on, but secondly, that we are indeed serious. In other words, we're not going to say the things that we've been saying over the years. We know the problems, Let's talk about whether there can't, for example, be a special dispensation for other energy providers to come into stream urgently, which then means your providers of alternative energy sources, special dispensation, say, for the next few months, couple of years and so on. So they are talking about those real and practical things, some of which cannot happen if you continue to close certain parts of the economy that need to provide certain things to those.
So just in that example you give about ESCOM, what jumps up for me as well is just how difficult, it may seem straightforward, we are in, our energy provider is in crisis, we need to think practically what do we do over the next few months, but it's not always that straightforward in the hurly-burly of politics in the ANC.
In fact, that is the big problem. That is why there hasn't been a great deal of progress up until now. Business in particular says, look, it's fine. If you want to keep ESCOM for distribution, generation, everything, that's fine. But we can suffer when ESCOM is experiencing problems. So we need alternatives to that. If you want to keep PRASA, right? But then we can't depend solely on PRASA for our people to commute to and from work. What that means then practically is that you then have to say, okay, we'll keep our PRASA, but we'll allow other players to come on board. Now, you're going to a policy conference of the ANC where the RET forces of the ANC are going to tell you that you are now privatizing. Right? So the ANC is going to have problems. So now it's the government, is President Cyril Ramaphosa and the entire executive are caught between a rock and a hard place because they know that those guys are going to be coming for them at the policy conference once the pandemic is over and activity resumes. So on the one hand, they want to there has been evidence that they are keen to actually listen or deliver on some of the issues, on some of the proposals that are being put on the table. But on the other hand, they know that there are these people coming for them at the policy conference. If they relent on that,
add to that the complexity of COSATU warning that people are going to lose their confidence in the ANC, and it becomes even more complex. Vuyo, thank you so much for coming through. You and I can sit here and talk for hours on end, but I'm afraid we are out of time. eNCA's political editor, Vuyo Mvoko, has been tracking that story for you and will be part of the coverage into the evening ahead of President Cyril Ramaphosa's address, which you can watch live here on eNCA at 7 p.m.